Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are taking a fascinating journey through time to decode one of the absolute most recognizable structures on the planet, the Colosseum. But listen, we aren't just looking at a pile of ancient rocks today. We're going to treat the Colosseum as our incredibly resilient main character in a grand 2,000-year epic. As we dig into this, we'll uncover the many, many lives of Rome's greatest arena, watching it evolve from a symbol of ultimate imperial power to a medieval housing complex, then a literal stone quarry, and ultimately, the global icon we all know today.
All right, let's jump right in. 50,000 to 80,000. That is the jaw-dropping spectator capacity of this ancient mega stadium when it was in its prime. Just take a second and imagine the sheer volume of humanity packed into that space. It wasn't just a building, it was the absolute epicenter of Roman life, a place where tens of thousands of people gathered shoulder to shoulder to witness spectacles that were uniquely and sometimes brutally Roman. So here is our roadmap for today's decoding session. First, origins and construction. Second, Roman architectural marvel. Third, from ruin to revival. And finally, today's global icon. Section 1, origins and construction. Building over a tyrant's lake. To truly understand the Colosseum, you really have to understand the dramatic, highly politically charged real estate it was built on. After the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD, Emperor Nero completely selfishly claimed a massive section of the ruined city center just for himself. He built this sprawling, over-the-top estate called the Domus Aurea, complete with gardens and a giant artificial lake. But when Emperor Vespasian took power, well, he made a massive political statement. He drained Nero's private lake, and right on that exact same spot, began building the Flavian Amphitheater, which is what we now call the Colosseum. He funded this massive public venue for the people using the immense spoils of war taken after the Jewish revolt in 70 AD. It was honestly a total masterclass in public relations, literally taking back land from a hated tyrant and handing it right back to the citizens. Let's quickly trace the rapid timeline of its early days here. Everything kicks off with that Great Fire in 64 AD, which completely clears the land. Just a few years later, between 70 and 72 AD, Vespasian breaks ground on the amphitheater, and the construction moved incredibly fast for something of this scale. By 80 AD, it was officially completed under the rule of Emperor Titus. Actually, shortly after its completion, another emperor, Domitian, made even further structural adjustments. So within just a few short decades, this specific site went from a burned-out neighborhood to a dictator's private lake to the absolute greatest public arena the world had ever seen. Section 2, Roman architectural marvel. The engineering behind the awe. To really wrap your head around the scale of this thing, think about this. It stood 57 meters tall, 188 meters long, and 158 meters wide. But what makes this truly special, and completely unlike earlier arenas that were literally built leaning into hillsides or natural dips in the earth, is that the Colosseum is a completely freestanding structure built on flat ground. That required a level of architectural confidence and foundational strength that was completely revolutionary for its time. And to build this freestanding giant, the Romans used 100,000 cubic meters of travertine stone. But here is the truly wild part. They didn't just rely on mortar to hold all those massive stones together. No, they used a staggering 300 tons of iron clamps to bind the stonework. To put that into perspective, that is an absolute mountain of metal dedicated purely to holding the building together. What's really fascinating about this structure is how entirely modern its logistical flow feels. If you've ever been to a massive sporting event today, you know crowd control is everything, right? Well, the Romans solved this with an ingenious system of arches, corridors, and 80 numbered entrances. This allowed the 50,000 to 80,000 spectators to easily find their specific seats, and more importantly, it meant the entire building could be evacuated in just a matter of minutes. Honestly, it rivaled and probably even surpassed the crowd control of many megastadiums we use today. But the engineering wasn't just about moving huge crowds around. It was also about extreme comfort and luxury. They actually deployed a giant canvas awning that could be stretched all the way over the top to protect the audience from the baking Roman sun or a sudden downpour. And for nighttime entertainment, they suspended a massive iron chandelier high above the arena to light up the shows. The sheer lengths the Romans went to for public entertainment were truly unparalleled. So, what exactly were those people watching under that giant awning? Well, spectacles that were often incredibly brutal. The arena was, of course, famous for gladiator fights, where slaves and prisoners of war were forced into combat, but they also hosted highly elaborate animal hunts, grim public executions, classical plays, and get this, they even flooded the arena floor for full on mock sea battles. It was the ultimate stage for both high drama and really brutal displays of imperial power. Section 3 From Ruin to Revival The Dark Ages of the Arena. Now, you might assume the games ended the exact minute the Roman Empire fell in 476 AD, but that's actually not the case. The Colosseum was used for its original entertainment purposes for nearly another 500 years. It wasn't until the 6th century that the final recorded fights took place. After that, the original blood-soaked spectacles finally ceased forever. Moving through the Middle Ages, a completely different, kind of bizarre picture of the Colosseum emerges. Once the game stopped, the space was totally repurposed. In the 6th century, a small church was built inside, and the actual fighting floor became a cemetery. By the 12th century, the massive vaulted corridors were literally being rented out as housing and artisan workshops. But the real turning point was the year 1349, when a massive earthquake struck Rome and completely destroyed the entire south wall of the arena. So the iconic, half-broken structure you see today, that's heavily defined by that one specific natural disaster. So the crucial point here is that after the earthquake, the Colosseum basically became a literal quarry. The rubble wasn't carefully cleared away to be restored, it was totally looted. The fallen travertine stones, the beautiful marble, and those 300 tons of iron and bronze clamps we talked about earlier were systematically stripped. They were hauled off, melted down, or reused to build other parts of Rome, including palaces, churches, and hospitals. The building was essentially cannibalized by the very city it was built to entertain. Over the next few centuries, various figures tried to figure out what on earth to do with this massive, looming ruin, which resulted in some incredibly surprising and frankly hilarious failed proposals. In the late 16th century, Pope Sixtus V had a grand plan to turn the historic ruins into a massive wool factory to provide jobs for Rome's unemployed, a plan that was only abandoned when he passed away. Later, in 1671, Cardinal Altieri officially authorized the site to be used for bullfighting. Unsurprisingly, this faced fierce public backlash and the idea was very quickly scrapped. Section 4. Today's global icon, enduring into the modern era. Fast forward to today, and the Colosseum is obviously one of Rome's absolute premier tourist destinations, drawing thousands of visitors every single day. The site is now highly accessible, offering subsidized entry and even completely free admission for EU citizens who are under 18 or over 65. And it continues to evolve. A portion of the arena floor has been carefully restored, and if you head up to the upper floor of the outer wall, you'll actually find a museum dedicated to the Greek god of love, Eros. And we are still uncovering its secrets. In recent years, archaeologists have given us even more access to the arena's hidden depths. In the summer of 2010, the dark, highly complex subterranean passageways beneath the arena floor were finally opened to the public. So modern visitors can now walk through the exact same underground networks that were once used to secretly move terrified gladiators and wild exotic animals right up to the stage above. Furthermore, the site maintains a really profound cultural and religious significance today. The Colosseum still holds deep ties with the Catholic Church. Every single year on Good Friday, the Pope himself leads the Way of the Cross procession right at the Colosseum. It's a stark contrast to its pagan, gladiator fighting origins for sure, but a true testament to the site's beautifully layered, multi-century significance. Which leaves us with this final thought. We've seen how this incredible structure has survived fires, massive earthquakes, centuries of looting, and changing empires. It adapted from a stadium to a graveyard, to a quarry, and finally to a protected icon. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Will our modern megastadiums still be standing and inspiring awe 2,000 years from now? The Colosseum's incredible endurance challenges us to think about what we built today and exactly what legacy we are going to leave behind. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope this helped you see the Colosseum in a whole new light. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.